Ramcharan, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Vice-Président. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I'm grateful for the opportunity to address this August Assembly on the Appropriation Bill 2022-2023. Along many of my honourable friends from this side of the House, it will be our third budgetary intervention. I am personally grateful for having learned a lot about budgetary parliamentary practice. But one thing I have learned from our current position is what to expect from them. In fact, my impression during my first budget and this current budget about the opposition is unchanged, as it is their record-breaking third year in the row budget intervention around their same motto of non yé pas bon. And I mentioned this non yé pas bon in my first budget speech in 2020. Whatever the government delivers, in spite of the difficult local and international economic conditions, it will never be enough. I could not find if a medical term exists to describe this situation. Perhaps Honorable Jagat Pal, as mentioned last night by Honorable Kunjusha, could offer a free consultation to understand the causes of their non yé pas bon syndrome. However, I must admit that I didn't learn something new from the opposition this year, which is that they have nothing to propose. They are indeed here only to oppose. We are fortunate and grateful to the opposition for gracing us with their presence so far, and I would recommend that the press members take ample pictures of the opposition benches. Everyone would know last year what happened, they all walk out. So this year, I'm grateful to them for their presence in the House. One never knows in case their habitual urge to walk out or walk from home takes over from them, leaving the opposition benches empty. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, about the philosophy of this budget, let us look in more details at the budget speech itself. It has 515 lines with 13,954 words. However, the word which is indeed in a substantive manner, the most number of times is the word support. Because yesterday, an honorable member on the other side mentioned a word which he could not find in this budget speech. But in this critical moment, in this situation, extremely difficult crisis, support is a word to be used in a budget speech. Not just in Mauritius, but this word has been used around the world in their budget speech because this population needs support from this crisis. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the word support we used 44 times across the budget speech. Interestingly, the second substantive word used the most is the word scheme, which was used 40 times. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, my point is that the basic philosophy which underpins this whole budget is that of support. Support to our households, support to our elders, support to our children, support to our youth, support to our young professionals, and support to our industries and economy, to list a few. It is a budget to support our population and the economy of this country, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. The performance of the last budget, when I refer to Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, we are the first ones from the government benches to acknowledge that tough and unprecedented times are squeezing the family budgets of our citizens. We, on this side of the House, as ministers, PPSs, MPs, are under even more pressure as we are day and night in our constituency and our roads to support our constituents in these difficult times. Because you can hardly find any member of the opposition in the constituency nowadays. You don't even find them. You can find them doing press conferences and going on radios, certain radios. The key is to remain focused, down to earth, composed to listen, to act rapidly and boldly. This is what the government has done and delivered through the budget 2022-2023. The Honourable Minister of Finance has delivered a budget which has managed to achieve numerous complex aims. Firstly, it brings immediate solutions to realign our current economic challenges. Secondly, it acknowledges the current pain of our Mauritian families by bringing immediate relief. And thirdly, it has boldly and with a vision paved the path to our country's future to address our long-term structural economic challenges. I thank the Honourable Minister of Finance, Honourable Ranganathan Padachi, and his staff and all the stakeholders for delivering this roadmap. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, every opposition member has maintained a clean sheet track record of non-Ipabu. The expected defeat is a gloomy outlook. However, we cannot discount or forget how we have unsung heroes who implemented the policies of the government over the last 2 years, thus steering our country away from the shores of doom. I want to salute the civil servants from all ministries, the police officers, the doctors, the firemen, the prison officers, and all the private sector employees from every sector who have tirelessly worked to deliver the country's progress and prosperity. This budget is by them all and for them all, with the people, for the people. However, beyond all the dark clouds painted by the opposition members, there are silver linings, which only the population and the government have seen since last year, which need to be highlighted. Indeed, the contribution of all the public and private sector employees need to be acknowledged, and credit must go to them for having steered our country to shine internationally across a number of world indexes. The answer to the opposition's dark clouds of pessimism doesn't come from the benches of the government side. In fact, it comes from the ranks of the working population, both private and public sector employees, who have acknowledged the hardships of the international economic conditions, but believed in the government's last year budget 2021-2022, its efforts and vision, and alongside their collective dedication, passion, and more importantly, hope and optimism, delivered the following international recognitions for Mauritius. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, allow me to list a few of them. September 2021, the Global Innovation Index, Mauritius ranked first African country and placed 52nd out of 132 countries globally with a high human development score, an acknowledgement of growth in financial services, tourism, and IT. October 2021, APSA, Africa Financial Markets. Mauritius is ranked second out of 23 countries. The index assesses the development and prospects of each country's financial and banking market. And Mauritius was in the top 10 countries for each of the 6 pillars. October 2021, on a wealth per capita basis, Mauritius is the wealthiest country in Africa, according to a new report by Mauritius-based Africa Bank and wealth intelligence firm New World Wealth. January 2022, 4th out of 111 countries in the world from wherever index. Mauritius was ranked 4th in this index, only after Portugal, Spain, and Romania, and was ahead of Japan, Malta, Costa Rica, Panama, and the Czech Republic and Germany. March 2022, Business Insider Africa. Mauritius ranked as the 4th best airport in Africa after Johannesburg and Cape Town. May 2022, in the Chandler Good Governance Index, Mauritius is again in the top African position, with Rwanda 2nd and Botswana 3rd place. May 2022, very recently, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the World Happiness Report, a publication of the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, 146 countries were assessed, and Mauritius was ranked 1st in Africa and significantly ahead of all other African countries. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I chose to mention only a few of the indexes over which Mauritius was independently and impartially assessed and ranked by international institutions over the last year. They range from different spheres, namely the ICT, financial services, business facilitation, employment, tourism, and good governance, which is in itself an award for each of our ministers. However, if I were in the shoes of these hundreds of thousands of dedicated and hard-working employees in all these sectors who have delivered these international recognitions, I would have had a single question for the opposition benches, and that was, non, n'y pas vous-même? I am sure the opposition would be the first to mention that there are other indexes which I couldn't find, where our performances could have improved, or certain areas where we did not perform as anticipated, but that is expected from them. These good performances do not just imply that the country is not facing any challenges. However, there's a positive insight to take out, which is that through the Honorable Prime Minister's vision. I would say the Prime Minister's vision, of course, bien sûr, le Premier Ministre Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagannath. The strategy of the last 3 budgets and the hard work of public and private sector employees, there have been achievements in spite of challenges and roadblocks of that the opposition should stop reheating its empty non n'y pas bon mantra and think outside of their matchbox. I would say matchbox. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, we all know the tough international economic conditions. The small island development countries have been the most impacted countries by the double economic shocks due to their distinct features. We have a relatively small, open economy which is vulnerable and helpless against the external events beyond our control. Environmental challenges, pandemics, and war are events we have no control on. Our main weapon, though, is mitigation, and that is cushioning our population and economy against the impacts of these external events. A report from the Food and Agricultural Organization mentions in the 38 SIDS countries have a 90% dependency on fossil-based fuel, amounting to imports of nearly $220 billion per year pre-COVID-19. They also predict that SIDS countries will face major food price increases as SIDS are net importers to an average of 60% of their food imports. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, it is a dire fact that both Russia and Ukraine produce nearly 53% of the global commerce of sunflower oil and seeds, 27% of global wheat trade, 23% of barley, and 14% of corn. The global supply chain are thus inevitably under immense pressure. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, we cannot deny that today the whole world is currently recovering from intensive care after the double shocks of COVID-19 and the Ukraine-Russia war. However, the war is not over, and a protracted war will only cause the international economy to remain in intensive care. According to the April 2022 World Bank Global Economy Outlook, the estimated global growth rate for 2022 and 2023 will be 3.6%. The World Bank clearly mentions that the inflation in 2022 for emerging economies is targeted to reach 8.7% due to war-induced commodity price increases. The World Bank has acknowledged it. The world's largest economies have acknowledged it. The emerging economies have acknowledged it, but Mr. Speaker, sir, Deputy Speaker, sir, the opposition members in Mauritius have yet to accept it, or yet to accept it. I wonder which textbook they are reading their economic theory that differs from the whole world. They first refused to acknowledge the economic impacts of the COVID-19 and now of the war. Indeed, they are obstinate in living in their little world of non-Ipabu. Honorable Mohammed, who is unfortunately not in the House, mentioned that we need to think outside the box. Let's talk about thinking outside the box. I would suggest he should look into the opposition's box problem first. Firstly, the opposition is not even bothering to think and propose. And secondly, they are themselves stuck in a box of the size of a matchbox. We have read each and every line of the budget, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. On the other hand, some people read between the lines, but the opposition seems not to have read any lines at all. It is clear that the population has a sense of déjà vu while listening to the opposition benches. Indeed, the opposition thought that they would undercut us by creating a media blitz. However, little would they have known that in so doing, they would shoot on themselves in their foot, but only reheating their no-confidence motion arguments during their budgetary intervention. They could have even considered walking out and leaving behind the Gisraye, the CD player, of the motion of no confidence. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, referring to imported food prices and petrol price inflation, our country also suffers from the disaster of distance. As we all know, we are fully reliant on air and sea travel to import of foodstuff and other basic commodities. Due to our geographical isolation, Mauritius has historically always been a net importer of goods. All the governments have been bearing these unfortunate inherent characteristics of our economy. However, it is only our government which has invested huge financial and human resources in achieving food security. We are thus inevitably and directly impacted by the global issue of inflation. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the rising inflation rate being witnessed by our country is unfortunately an imported inflation and a globalized issue. All countries around the world, ranging from SIDS to the large nations, such as the US, UK, France, and Australia, are bearing the brunt of the current new wave of globalized inflation. Across the world, the rising energy prices have accounted for nearly half of the inflation rates. In Mauritius, we are a net importer of fossil-based energy, we are bound to bear the full brunt of imported inflation, on which we have limited power. As the Ukraine-Russia war deepens, the world economic growth, consumer confidence will be further negatively impacted. The disaster of isolation means that we are fully dependent on air and sea travel to be able to import any goods to our country, from the basic commodities to the luxury goods. So, Deputy Speaker, sir, as I mentioned, we are fully dependent on air and travel. And sea travel means to conduct our importation of basic foodstuff. It is thus important to highlight that since November 2020, the global freight charges have been tripled. Hence, the freight price increase has a direct cascading effect of all goods transported by sea, air, and truck freight along major global trade routes, or nearly 80% of the world's commercial trade. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, concerning food security, it is important to remind the House that historically our country has been a net importer of goods. Since our country was colonized and gained economic independence in the 1970s, we have always been a net importer of basic goods and foodstuff to feed our population, with an overall self-sufficiency ratio of nearly 25%. The government is working tirelessly towards increasing our self-sufficiency capacity. However, we need to bear in mind that no country in the world is 100% or even close to 90% self-sufficient. As an island nation, we were net importers and are net importers, and we will be bound to be net importer for the foreseeable future. The government is firmly committed in increasing our self-sufficiency rate. But in order to manufacture our own stuff, we even have to import the raw materials. Our import basic foodstuff, such as rice, meat, fish, fruits, dairy products, and even vegetables, amount to a total import bill of nearly 75 billion. Incentives for agriculture, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the array of measures introduced this year is unparalleled. Hence, the mainstay of the initiatives is to consolidate the value creation potential of our current vast acreage of agricultural land, and in parallel to encourage more planters to start planting staple products such as onions, potatoes, garlic, and beans. Hence, the producers will benefit from minimum guaranteed prices, higher subsidies on the seeds up to 75%. The fruit and flower planters will also benefit from a grant of up to 50% in fruit ripening infrastructures and a grant of 100,000 rupees for purchasing planting equipment. Contrary to what Honorable Luthi mentioned in his intervention, there is a real enthusiasm within the younger generation to enter the agro industry. Surprisingly, these youngsters are graduates and former blue-collar job employees who have been incentivized following the government's intense initiatives. I would suggest any member to put his boots on to meet this new generation of planters. The numerous schemes listed by the Honorable Minister of Finance are products of the requests made by these young planters. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, concerning the municipal tax, I welcome the abolition of this tax, a measure which we promised during the 2019 general elections campaign and which figured prominently in our electoral manifesto. This historic measure will create a level playing field between our towns and villages. Honorable Jawal mentioned that he partially removed the municipal taxes while he was Minister of Finance. Our government, this government, doesn't believe in unjust unfair, offensive, and half-baked measures like the NRPT, no would be boast about them. We believe in action, and abolishing the municipal tax is a bold example. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, another merit of abolishing the municipal tax is the justice being brought to thousands of inhabitants of my constituency number 14, Savannah and Black River, which host the localities of Bassin and Parlement Catrebonne. This long-standing anomaly will finally end. These localities, though forming part of constituency number 14, Savannah Rivière Noire, were also part of the Municipal Council of Catrebonne and hence were eligible for paying the municipal tax. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, social measures of this budget. It is under the stewardship of the Honorable Prime Minister. Prime Minister, Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagannath. And mentioning the name of Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagannath, for me, it's not just a pleasure, but it's a respect to the person who is due to take his name in this assembly. I'm telling these lines to you, Honorable Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, because one of the members on the other side yesterday, I think was it at ease hearing the name of the Honorable Prime Minister from this side. But I can say, we can say on this side, but we are proud of taking the name of Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagannath, and we can mention this name in every lines. We can, because we haven't heard their Pradhan Mantri Navin Chandram Gulam name since they have started speaking in this for this budget. Because maybe they don't want to take his name, or they are ashamed of taking his name. But we are proud on this side, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, under the stewardship of the Honorable Prime Minister, that the decision was taken to increase the basic retirement pension from 3,623 rupees in December 2014 to 11,000 rupees to over 65 years as from July 2022. A massive increase of 204% over only 8 years. In December 2022 of this year, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, an elderly couple aged over 65 years will take home a combined pension amount of 44,000 rupees to enable them to enjoy a decent retirement. Indeed, this is very far from the nearly 14,000 rupees the same elderly person would have earned under the Labour government of 2014. Moreover, I welcome the higher SRM allowances. An above inflation rate, increased social incomes and benefits. The 1,000 rupees additional payment to employees will be particularly welcomed by civil servants who were paid their full PRB 2021 report last year. The cost of living increases has been duly tackled by a holistic package of measures, which includes the 1,000 rupee salary increase, reduction of income tax rates, increased exemption for private medical insurance premiums and private pension contributions, more than doubling of the tax exemption for children pursuing tertiary education, increasing the petrol allowance and the exemption of traveling allowances deduction. From a young couple to a young family with children, the above benefits coupled with increased subsidies on rice, flour, and gas cylinders, new price controls and subsidies introduced on commonly used foodstuff will provide the required relief and support to our hard-working families across the island. Deputy Speaker, sir, I heard from many members of the opposition, of course. As expected, that the 1,000 baby bonus is not enough. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, our ancestors have always taught us the importance of long-term planning and developing a sound culture of saving for rainy days. Hence, I would highly encourage parents with newborns to deposit this money for rainy days for our children in their saving accounts. Moreover, parents should also in turn inculcate the savings culture of our forefathers to their children. To inspiring and new parents, my message is that you should not let any member comment on your parenthood by assuming that you are not financially, logistically, and morally prepared to welcome your newborn. Enjoy your parenthood and teach your children to overcome negativity and utter uselessness. Teach them one of the most basic life skills, that is, the opportunities to grab are endless. One just needs the right mindset, the right people, and the right blessing. Coming to my constituency number 14, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, all the infrastructural projects for the financial year 2021-2022, the value of completed projects across the constituency actually amount to 265 million. And there are certain projects which are already in process. And moreover, the budget 2022-22 has announced a series of infrastructural projects across the constituency, namely construction of a waste treatment facility at Saint-Martin, extension of the boat passage at Le Monde, dredging at Suyak Lagoon, opening of a new DBM branch in Bambou, setting up of beach management plans for Flic-en-Flac and La Prairie beaches. Projects worth 150 millions under the National Flood Management Program for the regions at Mosquero de Chemin-Grenier, NS Le Maire, Morcellement de Chazal Flic-en-Flac, and Dakri Bambou. Construction of a pre-primary school at Le Monde. Construction of a new area health center at Bambou. Construction of a new community health center at Cas-Noyal, another one, and another community health center in Tamarin. Construction of a new lake road from La Brasserie to Besonge. Construction of a football pitch at Flic-en-Flac and a volleyball pitch at Tamarin. Water distribution projects at Pierrefonds, Flic-en-Flac, Chamonix, and Chemin-Grenier. Sewage infrastructure projects at Bambou and Chamarel. And actually, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, there are projects of to the amount of about 400 million ongoing in Chamarel, and Le fameux New Mosquée Road project has been completed. I thank the Honorable Bobby Ayram for that and the Minister of Finance. And there are many other projects who have been completed in constituency number 14. Coming to constituency number 8, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, for the financial 2021-2022, projects amounted to 61 million, with a value of ongoing projects amounting to 195 million. Moreover, the budget 2022-2023 has announced a series of infrastructural projects across the constituency. Some of them are the construction of an Ayush hospital, of a student accommodation facility at Côte d'Or, equipping the Côte d'Or National Sport Complex to hold major concerts by local and international artists. Opening of a new DBM branch in Saint-Pierre, opening of the Metro Express corridor between Rosehill and Réduit, which will end by November 2022. Projects worth 281 million under the National Flood Management Program in the regions of Cantorel, Lagrément-Saint-Pierre, Nouvelle-Découverte, Telfer-Moka, La Laura-Malinga, and L'Avenir. Construction of a new eye hospital at Moka. Construction of a new community health center at Cantorel. And revamping of community center at Saint-Pierre into a community wellness center. We have also the opening of the Verdun bypass by March 2023 and the construction of a new flyover at Saint-Pierre. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, in his first budgetary intervention as an MP.
Try to wrap up. Sure. The time is almost over. Continue. Try to wrap up.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. In his first budgetary intervention as an MP, on the 19th of May, 1964, that is 58 years ago, late Sir Anirudh Jagannath strongly advocated that the then Labour-led government to focus on the cost of living and infrastructural troubles faced by the common man. In 1991, late Sir Anirudh Jagannath delivered his first budget speech on the 17th June of 1991 as Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. His focus was again to accelerate our country's industrial development and secure enhanced social protection for our less fortunate ones. In his last budget address as Minister Mentor on the 21st June 2019, for budget 2019-2020, he reiterated his endeavor in ensuring the progress of our country by helping the daily lives of the common man, by economically empowering them, by fostering our country's infrastructural development.
Wrap up very quickly.
Yes, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir.
I don't have to cut you in the middle.
I have lost my page. Yes, sir. Le fil conducteur, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, and the common philosophy of social and economic balanced progress, which has underpinned Sir Anirudh Jagannath's 55th years of budgetary interventions and presentation, are again ever present in budget 2022-2023, as it has historically been all MSM-led governments are the DNA of the party. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I have a few minutes left.
Get it in one line, please. You're about
few
minutes over your time allocated. You're quite a few minutes over. I've been quite fair.
Okay. Well, okay, Honorable Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. The working message of this budget 2022-2023 is that by necessity and by belief, our strength lies in unity and our danger in discord. The challenges before us are daunting, but we are facing them with confidence, conviction, and solidarity. But before the last line, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I would like to highlight one point which I heard last night from Honorable Shakil Mohammed. Shakil Mohammed.
One line, Honorable Ramcharan.
Honorable.
One line, not even 1 minute, one line.
It won't be enough for one line, but
you should have planned your time better. I don't do the planning. Oh, dear, please. He's a young member. I'll give him that much. One line. I think I've been fair.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, we will never ever surrender the fate of our country. We have listened, delivered, and we will succeed. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ganga Prasad.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to intervene on the 2022-2023 budget speech. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, there are 54 members of the government and the opposition who have intervened before me. Before I proceed any further, let me reflect on the comments made by one honourable member who preceded me and who intervened with a lot of passion. My good friend, Honourable Lakshman Roy, rightly condemned the person who made derogatory remarks on people's physique. This is the cheapest and vilest remark that one can make, which really hurts the dignity of an individual. If I got it right, she said she felt offended when someone treated a woman as puturasi. Be it a man or a woman, no one should be treated as puturasi. All of us agree on this, the government and the opposition. There is no division of vote in it. Let me read an interview of a lady. Fortunately, we have the Minister of Gender Equality also present here. Let me read the interview of a lady who was treated as a puturasi. Let me quote from Le Mauricien, dated 8 March 2021. Question. Au cours de votre longue carrière politique, vous avez eu l'occasion de travailler avec les principaux leaders politiques du pays. Comment vous ont-ils traité? La réponse de cette dame, tout à l'heure je vais mentionner. Tout à fait correctement. Je n'ai jamais eu de problème personnel, ni avec Béranger, ni avec Navine, qui ont su me respecter et m'écouter quand il le fallait. Mais par contre, j'ai été insulté grossièrement une fois par Sadj, alors que j'étais son adversaire politique, qui m'a traité de puturasi. La colère ou l'adversité politique, la colère ou l'adversité politique ne peut pas tout excuser. Je viens de lire l'interview de Sheila Bakou. Je viens de lire l'interview de Sheila Bakou. Et c'est pas fini, monsieur Deputy Speaker. Étant donné que j'ai une charmante épouse à la maison, je n'ai nullement besoin d'accompagner un puturasi. Cette phrase est gravée à tout jamais dans le Hansard du 25 mars 2014. Qui a dit ceci? Cette personne, un ancien ministre MSM, qui est aujourd'hui un ambassadeur, un représentant de ce pays, un homme qui a maltraité une dame de puturasi. Et cette personne-là s'appelle Mahendra Group. Who says that government and opposition cannot have a common stand on something? When it comes on human dignity, on peut et on doit faire bloc. I will ask members of the government to join members of the opposition to condemn all those people who dare to make such remarks. I will ask the members of the government not to have double standards on that issue also. I will ask the Minister of Gender Equality also to take a stand on this as well. I am tabling it. Ah bon, non. moi non. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, there is more to come. There is more to come. C'est le commencement là. Attendons. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the budget
I like your dance,
2022-2023, on page 62, under the item 380, we are told that government will provide a monthly prime à l'emploi de 15 000 roupies à 10 000 jeunes who are aged between 18 to 35 years and women up to 50 years. Several schemes have been lumped into one and have been announced again and again. This has also created confusion among thousands of youngsters under the various schemes known by different names. For instance, in the budget 2021-2022, under item 244, there was the same measure to train and reskill 10,000 individuals. The different schemes have changed names like SME Graduate Scheme, National Apprenticeship Program, National Training and Reskilling Scheme, Dual Training Program, National Skill Development Program, oh my God, Graduate Training Employability Scheme, Youth Employment Program. If I go on, the list is long. Back to work and more, which have been announced every year over the past 7 years by this MSM government, who supposedly cares for the youngsters. Mr. Speaker, sir, Deputy Speaker, sir, I have a letter from those people who are currently under the scheme of MITD. Do you know what? They are getting less than 4,000 rupees. I have a letter which these youngsters have written to the Director, Human Resource Development Council. I'm not naming the name of the director. 4th floor, NG Tower, Eben Cyber City, dated 1st June 2022. Where are these youngsters? The youngsters of this republic, the youngsters whom we should support, the youngsters whose dream we should help to fulfill. They write, paragraph 5. We wish to inform that the amount of 10,575 was also announced on radio, even on Facebook, as well as on the NTRS and NRDC website. We wish to inform, paragraph 6, we wish to inform you that many youngsters have even quit their job, and some have even lost the opportunity for a new job due to the fact that they have relied on the stipend in question that was supposed to be given by the government. Paragraph 7, we wish to inform that we are stunned by being aware that our stipend will be below the sum of 4,000 rupees monthly. And with regard to that, some students are discouraged to follow the course and wish to discontinue the course. And they thought that it was unfair from the part of government by not specifying clearly, comprehensively, and in a simple way that it can be brought to the attention of each and every student, disregarding their educational level. We are surely not lawyers here. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I come to this house to ask for repair for these youngsters, to talk on behalf of these youngsters, to be their spokesperson. You can come with measures, and there is tap la tap there. And they commented on this. Are they aware what these youngsters are facing in reality? They seize the MSM government. Promesse, delivery, zero. Mr. Speaker, sir, Deputy Speaker, sir, now I will move on to the sector which at least my party has given me the responsibility, education. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be a member of the Labour Party. The party that has given me and many like me, even Honorable Ramcharan, even Honorable Danu, everyone here, most of us, free education. And then it was not a promise for a group like here. Some people are suffering. Et virer, tourner, ras jiper, whatever they have been singing. Tout à l'heure, je vais vous dire là, qui finira c'est. A honorable, and again he's leaving, for whom I have a lot of respect as a former Minister of Education. For the present one, tout à l'heure, je vais parler. This is the party which has given this country free transport. And they are shamelessly saying Now I will rebut what my very good friend, Honorable Ramcharan, has said. We are ashamed of taking the name of our leader. Who has told you this? Where did you get that information? Perhaps the enemies of Navin Ramgoolam, perhaps I'm saying, were praying when he was not well, when he left for India. They were praying, perhaps, I've said. If you feel insulted, I don't know. I'm not talking about you. His enemies, I'm saying. These people may have wished that he didn't return, but we prayed for him. And here on my left, there is someone, not only the party, not only the leader, but the country are grateful to Honorable Dr. Paradomir for whatever he did for my leader. And I will always be grateful to you, Honorable Doctor. It is assured. Ça pratique. Get la baba gagner. Ici pas dîner. Hein? Pas dîner. I now move on to education. This is the third for Honorable Padayachi, but the eighth budget speech of this present government. Out of a speech of 13,588 words, the Minister of Finance devoted only 420 words to education, from page 39 to page 41. For a budget of 18.3 billion, the minister could devote only 423 words. We have never reached this level in a budget speech. You yourself, you are doing better. You yourself, if I refer to your previous budget speeches. I don't know what happened. Perhaps it is COVID. The stakeholders of the sector were waiting for some clear signals for a revolution in the sector. They were waiting for a new takeoff, a new pedagogical contract for the betterment of the sector. Is it a missed opportunity to take a new path for the educational sector? Neither in this budget speech nor elsewhere have I heard any genuine rethinking about our educational policies in the wake of the pandemic. Honestly, I think we should have done so as a nation which relies on its human resource to face the many challenges facing us. Food security, developing our economic and energy resilience, creating new scopes for emerging industries, and above all, imbuing in our youth the necessary zeal to reimagine a better future, a better Mauritius, amidst the gloom that has seeped in over the past years. Does the budget trace the contours that the educational sector will and should take in the aftermath of lockdowns, now that online and blended mode of learning can support face-to-face learning in a more systematic way? Have we devised ways and means to listen to the ordeals of those kids who come from deprived, underprivileged families, who come from broken homes, who come from economically challenged backgrounds? Is our educational system really braced up to prepare our children to face the vicissitudes of life? Today it is COVID-19. Tomorrow there may be other calamities. Is our formal education system preparing our children who are at school today to meet the challenges of tomorrow? Has this budget tried to address the different problems which we came across before, during, and after the school closures? How far have our educational policies been reviewed and revamped in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic? Can we afford to miss the opportunity to review and revamp our educational policies? Educational researchers and educational policymakers around the world are trying their best not to miss the opportunity to revisit their national educational policies and to chart new ones in the wake of COVID-19, because we cannot revert back to the old model as if we did not face any pandemic, as if we did not face any lockdown, as if our system of education was not shaken seriously. We have a lot to learn from exactly how different uses of educational technology affected student learning during school closures. We need to evaluate the online instruction platforms, how they could be used in the future, or how to make blended mode of learning more meaningful by mitigating the different shortcomings we faced. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, let me now refer to a few issues plaguing our primary and secondary schools. Dear parents, to whom I am addressing, are you aware that in our primary schools, my friends, primary school teachers are today buying markers from their own pockets? Honorable Mr. Finance, I'm addressing to you. Please do something from my friends, primary school teachers, so that they get a marker to work. Okay, of different colors, please, for the sake of our kids. Are you aware that when this government is bragging that it has made provision of 18 billion or so for the educational sectors, our teachers who do not benefit from MIC funds have to draw money from their salary to buy markers to use in their class? 8 years that this government is in power, many primary school teachers whom I met to discuss this issue jokingly told me that unfortunately there is no emergency procurement for the purchase of markers, or else many chicopin, owners of bijouterie and quincaillerie, would have surely helped to solve this problem. I have also been informed that grade 1 students who have been promoted to grade 2 after the assessment which was carried out have not received their textbooks so far. I am talking of part 2, not part 1, part 2 of their grade 2 textbook. Is this how our lovely kids are treated? Isn't this the reason why so many parents who cannot afford it are turning towards fee-paying school? But what about children from modest families? Isn't the system pushing some children towards fee-paying school, creating and enlarging the learning gap between those who can afford and those who cannot do so? Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I will continue on the primary sector itself. The recurrent expenditure for school requisites and maintenance of buildings have not been increased. Most schools need grants to undertake repairs, painting, and renovation works. In the past, primary schools were getting grants ranging from 300,000 to 500,000 per school in the past. There is no provision for new intake of primary educators, while many are retiring yearly. They are recruiting untrained educators and retired ones from outside. 2 or 3 weeks crash course won't make untrained people become educators. Also, supply educators have no accountability, and this will affect quality of education. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, it is not the politician who is talking. It is someone who cares for kids. It is someone who has spent his career in education who is talking. Support teachers were made to work the adjusted curriculum with overage grade 1 pupils to move to grade 2, while these teachers are not even trained to take full charge of classes. Isn't this a pedagogical joke in Mauritius of 2022? Grade 5 pupils who want to take part in grade 6 PESAC are left to themselves. Absolutely no support at school level. Holistic education is just another subject. Certainly not the panacea announced that would transform our pupils. In fact, never was a time when indiscipline, bullying, and immoral behavior has thrived so much in our schools. Everyone is aware about it. Mr. Speaker, sir, we as parents, we as educators, how do we react when we see that in newspapers? Des enfants victimes et bourreaux à la fois. Managing a school without issue. I have done it. I have done it. And we read also, malgré les annonces, I am not saying it. It is not the Labour Party who is saying it. It is not the politician who is saying it. Malgré les annonces, le manque de psychologues perdure. I am not saying it. Honorable Minister of Finance, I'm addressing to you directly. Take note, please. These are our kids, your kids, and kids have no political affiliation. They are our kids, they're the kids of the nation. There are no refresher courses to upgrade educators since 2003, as they were made to do a diploma at MIS training. Refresher course. How come those students who have successfully promoted to grade 2, as I said it, have not received their textbooks, Madam Honorable Minister? Is she aware that in several secondary schools there is the problem of leakages in science and computer laboratories? How come I have the list? How come I know about it? And you as Minister of Education, you're not aware about it? Expired chemicals from laboratories which have not been disposed of. How many schools do not have fire certificate? Tomorrow morning, get the figures from your officers. Security issue. Security issue. One security officer, even if the school has 2 main gates, security during the day and not at night. Sitane nanto. Nabi nanto la. They nanto. Okay? Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, let me refer to 2020-2021 budget for education on page 22 under item 296A. 100 million was voted for the deployment of wireless local area network in 155 secondary schools. Today when I'm talking to you, do you know, does the country know, no internet facilities in many secondary schools, in spite of the huge sums of money which have been voted year in, year out in this house? Let me inform the public that in many secondary schools, rectors have taken an internet package, Airbox, and they're footing the bill from their pockets. Sometimes the PTA pays for the bill. I congratulate the fraternity of rectors who are waiting for this government to provide them the internet facilities to do the needful. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the 2020-2021 budget, under item 296B, promise was made to develop a national e-learning platform to connect educators of the secondary schools with their students. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. We should have it. My question is, where is the national e-learning platform? A simple learning platform has not been set up till today, and they are talking about a national e-learning platform for everyone. Who will prepare, vet, and approve it, and monitor this national e-learning platform? Will it cater for all band of learners, all categories of learners? How will the slow learners and high flyers benefit from it? I hope the Honorable Minister will enlighten us. I'm asking a question. Where are we with this platform? This government is as good as making sensational promises like Delo 24/7, 12,000 maisons, wireless local area network in secondary schools, just like the national e-platform. Very poor at delivery. Mr. Speaker, sir, Deputy Speaker, sir, I heard with happiness the promise made that a gymnasium will be constructed at RCC, Royal College Cupid. Yes, we need it. But I request the rector, the PT and the students of RCC to monitor the project very closely. Why am I saying so? Do you know since when the gymnasium of Goodlands Boys SSS, which is very close to my house, and I know the school, since when the gymnasium of Goodlands Boys SSS is being awaited by one and all? There are several cohorts of students who have joined, completed, and left the school without ever seeing the gymnasium. I feel sorry for the boys of Goodlands Boys SSS. But I feel exasperated for students of Piton SSS, Mapou SSS, Trio LA SSS, Pamplemousse SSS, Saint-Aubin SSS, Rivière des Anguilles SSS, among others. Where do we have a gymnasium today? 4 à 14. 4 à 14. I'm sorry to these parents of 4 à 14. See what is happening? We need roads, we need schools, we need infrastructure in Catakatos. Even MGSS Flac, MGSS Solferino, MGSS Nouvelle-France do not have a gymnasium. I do not know whether the other MGSSs will get the gymnasium or not, but let me inform the Minister of Education and the Prime Minister, who have been elected in number 8, that even in MGSS Mocha, we people who have been to MGI, who have been former students of MGI, we call MGSS Mocha Timoka, because the MGI I went is known MGI Secondary School. So, these MGSS Mocha does not have a gymnasium, and it is in your constituency. Please vote a sum of money. Get that gymnasium built. This government, which is very often refers to Catakatos for obvious political reasons, should realize how many children from constituency Catakatos are deprived of decent educational environment. 21st century education imperatively requires appropriate human resource, appropriate infrastructure, appropriate curriculum, appropriate pedagogy. Let me quote someone who has said that. Who has said that? Let me quote someone from a speech of 20th June 2019. However, we also need to have the conducive physical environment that contributes to the whole. The budget recognizes this and provides for the means to improve the infrastructure and the learning environment of schools. We talk about the 45 learning environment in primary as well as secondary schools. For this, provision has been made in the budget. Who said that? The actual Minister of Education. She said that. When? 2019. Where are we with the project? She will have to answer later on. For the past 8 years, this government is in power, and yet so many secondary schools do not even have a gymnasium, which I consider as a basic necessity for the holistic development of our children. The school I went had a gymnasium, and the school where I was a rector had a gymnasium. At our TSS, we had one, fortunately. How long will our kids wait to get the gymnasium? The Labour Party gave the kids of this country free education, free transport. A gymnasium you can't give? Caring government? Catakatos? Parents who are listening to me, let me inform you. Perhaps their children also are going to these schools, who knows? I am talking on your behalf. Parents who are listening to me, let me inform you that today, physical education is an examinable subject. Be careful. It is not just PE that we talk. It is an examinable subject by Cambridge. I know it because when I was a rector, my students did that subject. And for that, they need a gymnasium. Why? Why? Because in the curriculum, they have to complete what we call indoor games, like handball and other subjects. I'm not going to get into details. The next problem, serious problem, est la violence. La violence à l'école est un épineux problème qu'il faut à tout prix s'attaquer, car le nombre d'incidents ne cesse d'augmenter. De tels cas de violence, s'ils ne sont pas traités, conduisent à une société dysfonctionnelle, où tout le monde a le sentiment que la violence est un mode de vie et qu'il est permis de l'utiliser pour régler le problème. As a Mauritian, I'm saying, in this country where we have brutalité policière, in this country where we have brutalité domestique, in this country where we have violence sociale, in this country where we have violence, it is important for policymakers to sit down and to rise above politics and to look for means and ways how to address that issue. Mr. Speaker, Deputy Speaker, sir, let me now to come to something serious. Yesterday, my colleague, Honorable Juman mentioned it. Perhaps you did not pay attention. But he raised a very important issue. He had even addressed a PQ. But unfortunately, we did not have that sitting where the Honorable Minister would have answered that. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I am very respectful towards institutions. I am respectful towards institutions. I am respectful towards the Honorable Minister because she's a lady. Mr. Nakchedi, see my tone when I'm talking. I have at no point in time been personal. Yes, I'm addressing. I have been very gentlemanly. You, someone who can only think of Bata Sabat Dodo? What level? Sorry, I shouldn't address to you. I should address to the Deputy Speaker, sir. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you. Last year, I wrote to the Director of MES, and allow me to read whatever I told the Director of MES. Last year, 25th March 2021, to the Director, I'm not naming the person. And I started by saying there is no education like adversity, by quoting Benjamin Disraeli. Dear Madam, the country is going through very difficult times in the wake of the second lockdown. Running the exams in such circumstances is not easy. Still, as an institution, the MES has answered to the call of duty. I wish to express my appreciation for the work you and your dedicated team of officers are doing during this period of confinement. Apart from the officers of the MES, I seize this opportunity to salute all the supervisors, coordinators, invigilators, markers, bus drivers and conductors, police officers, heads of school, the teaching and non-teaching staff, and the trade unionists and their members who are collaborating in one way or the other as genuine patriots to ensure that the exams are held and managed in serenity and least disturbance. I pray for the good health and safety of one and all, so that all our kids who are taking the PESAC, NCE, SC, and HSC exams do so in the best possible conditions. Bon courage to the personnel, all the best to the students and their parents. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I feel sad now to announce that there is an alleged case of leakage in the PESAC papers. 2 weeks or so ago, officials from the MES lodged alleged case of leakage. Alleged. It has not been proved. Alleged. 2 weeks ago or so, officials from the MES lodged a police case and one officer has been suspended pending inquiries. I hope the inquiry takes place in transparency and there is no witch hunting. But the public in general and parents whose kids are taking the PESAC exam need to be aware about this incident. It is a very serious matter. I have been a rector and I know what it means to ensure the safety and security of exam papers. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, now new security measures are being placed, while they ought to have been there since a long time. Now access to computers containing papers are denied. Now mobile phones are not being allowed inside the rooms where there are these papers. Now passwords are being used for papers when they were never done so before. Now access to the confidential rooms are being monitored when previously anyone could enter. As a result of the alleged leakage of the PESAC papers, all papers are being redone. All previous papers have to be thrown away. Previous papers were prepared after 1.5 years in the past. Now it has to be done now. The new PESAC and NC papers will have to be prepared within 1 month. Paper setters will have to rush and prepare the exam papers anew. Let me remind the House that the PESAC modular exams will be taken in August. The big question is what will be the quality of papers set from grade 4 to grade 9. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, if I have talked from my heart because I care for these kids. The public and even government members will have to reflect when I have just said. It is not a political meeting that I did. I talk about the education of my country. 2022. I talk about exams, about the manquement dans le système. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I'm almost done. But, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I have not dilly-dallied in my political career. And I have a coherence in what I do. Some time back, I had a PQ, which was addressed to a certain minister. When the time came for me to ask the question, I didn't ask the question. Today I ask your permission because I have respect for you and the chair. Allow me to leave the chamber and not to listen to that member. Thank you very much, everyone.
Honorable Shamida, then please.
Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Deputy Speaker. Thank you for giving me the floor to intervene on the Appropriation Bill 2022-2023 bill.
All right, get on with it. Don't worry. I'm listening. Come on.
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur le Vice-président, merci. Après avoir écouté l'honorable Ganga Persad, et je me demande, ce membre, l'honorable membre, était recteur d'un collège. Heureusement, Monsieur le Président, il n'en est plus. Dans son intervention, l'honorable David a fait une remarque sur le ministre Tilak pour dire que rien n'a été fait pour commémorer les 200 ans du théâtre de Port-Louis. Maintenant, je le comprends, Monsieur le Président. Il y a un très bon acteur dans la Chambre qui vient de quitter avec l'amplificateur qu'il a avalé. Nul besoin de dire « étape et micro là pas morcé ». Avec l'amplificateur qu'il a avalé, Monsieur le Président, nul besoin de dire « étape et micro là pas morcé ». Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I will start my intervention by addressing myself through you to congratulate the Minister of Finance Economic Development, Honorable Renganaden Padayachi. Mais, Monsieur le ministre des Finances, qu'avez-vous fait? Qu'avez-vous fait, Monsieur le ministre des Finances? Le Premier ministre le répète souvent, un match de foot se joue en demi-temps. Monsieur le ministre des Finances, on est toujours à la première mi-temps. Vous me faites revivre les demi-finales du fameux match Brésil-Allemagne de 2014. À la mi-temps, l'Allemagne menait déjà 5-0 et la messe était dite. Après avoir écouté la présentation du budget 2022-2023 et en parcourant les mesures énoncées dans le présent exercice budgétaire, vous avez fait exactement ce que l'Allemagne a fait en première mi-temps. Monsieur le ministre, vous osez augmenter toutes les pensions, réduire la taxe d'impôt pour les middle class, abolir taxes municipales, créer de l'emploi, régler le problème de sale by levy. L'espoir de l'opposition était que ce budget allait être à leur goût en prenant en considération les facteurs économiques, tels que la pandémie Covid-19 qui nous a affectés à tous les niveaux, le secteur touristique, un de nos plus gros apports en termes de devises, qui était mal. Tous les indicateurs économiques étaient au rouge. L'opposition croyait fermement que la messe était dite et qu'ils allaient avoir leur bouffée d'oxygène et profiter de ce malheur international pour se refaire une beauté. Mais, Monsieur le ministre des Finances, vous les avez mis KO en première mi-temps. Vous avez fait l'espoir sombrer dans le désespoir. Mais mes amis au gouvernement, c'est sûr qu'on a passé des longues heures dans ce Parlement et ne devrions-nous pas nous attendre aux prochaines longues heures de débat sur des futures motions of no confidence que l'opposition ne cessera d'apporter. face à tous les types de mesures prises par ce gouvernement. Imaginez tout simplement toutes les mesures apportées par le MSM et ses partenaires depuis 2019 pour la gestion de la pandémie de la COVID-19, qui a valu à Maurice d'être cité en exemple par l'OMS, l'augmentation de la pension, des subsides sur les produits de base, le vaccin à tout le monde, le développement continu, les gens continuent à travailler, les enfants à l'école, les vaccins pour les plus petits, l'hôpital de Flac en construction, l'hôpital pour le traitement du cancer presque complété et partiellement opérationnel. At a later stage, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I will come to the cancer hospital. Monsieur le vice-président, à toutes les mesures que j'ai énumérées, il ne faut pas oublier les différents types de soutien à la population, l'extension du tracé du métro express, le soutien accordé aux entreprises et aux travailleurs indépendants à travers le Wage Assistance Scheme, le Self-Employed Assistance Scheme, les facilités destinées aux entrepreneurs, surtout aux femmes entrepreneurs du pays, et j'en passe. Mais qu'est-ce que cette panoplie de mesures nous a valu? Une plaisanterie grotesque de la part du leader de l'opposition qui est venu de l'avant avec une motion de blâme contre le gouvernement. La situation est difficile avec les nombreux défis qui se présentent à nous. Je comprends donc le leader de l'opposition qui a voulu détendre l'atmosphère à travers sa plaisanterie qui, au final, n'a fait que perdre le précieux temps de cette Chambre. Now imagine, with the new measures that this budget has brought in, à quoi devrions-nous nous attendre, Monsieur le Vice-président? Et le plus intéressant de tout cela, c'est que selon les bruits du couloir, venant de certains membres d'un parti de l'opposition en particulier, le leader de l'opposition serait tombé dans le piège tendu par leur leader en présentant cette motion of no confidence. Monsieur le Président, Monsieur le Vice-président, la pension est passée de 3 623 à 10 000 roupies. 6 377 roupies de plus, soit 176% d'augmentation de 2014 à 2022. Vous vous rendez compte, Monsieur le Président, un couple retraité va toucher 40 000 roupies comme pension pendant le mois de décembre. Monsieur le Président, j'ai moi-même fait un simple calcul financier par la Juman. De 2005 à 2014, la période pendant laquelle le Parti travailliste était au pouvoir. La tendance d'augmentation était de 6% en average par an. Et c'est pour cela que l'Alliance Les Peuples avait annoncé dans son manifeste électoral en 2014 que la pension allait être de 5 000 roupies. Le gouvernement d'alors, le Parti travailliste, en alliance avec le MMM, avait crié haut et fort que cela allait être impossible et selon leurs calculs ne dépasserait pas 4 000 roupies. En fait, c'est sûr avec la tendance de 6% que la pension n'allait pas dépasser les 4 000 roupies. Mais Monsieur le Président, Monsieur le Vice-président, si nous faisons un scénario en utilisant leur tendance de 6%, vous savez combien les retraités allaient toucher aujourd'hui si l'Alliance Parti travailliste MMM était au pouvoir? 5 500 roupies, Monsieur le Vice-président. Oui, les bénéficiaires de la pension de ce pays, écoutez-moi attentivement. Votre pension de vieillesse allait être de seulement 5 500 roupies, pas plus. Et aujourd'hui, vous touchez 10 000 roupies. Faites la comparaison. Et l'opposition a le toupet de venir dire que c'est peu. Oui, en se basant sur leurs formules et leurs calculs mathématiques, c'est peu. 40 plus 40, 60 zéros. Plus fort que jamais, toujours dans l'opposition. Et maintenant, le dernier en date, 2,5%, 2 000 roupies, vous faites 250 roupies, Monsieur le Président. Alors, tout s'explique. C'est clair que l'opposition a un gros souci avec l'augmentation de la pension. Cela a été un fait majeur dans la pétition électorale dirigée contre le Premier ministre, contre la vice-première ministre et contre moi-même, par Sourène Dayal, candidat battu du Parti travailliste. Il est clair que dans la pétition que l'augmentation de la pension de vieillesse proposée par le Premier ministre n'était pas du tout à leur goût, car la vie des personnes âgées n'est guère leur souci. Monsieur le Vice-président, De 2014 à ce jour, le pays a connu des développements révolutionnaires. Aujourd'hui, la population appréciera que le pays a un nouveau visage. Ceux qui ont quitté le pays quelques années de cela et qui reviennent à Maurice pourraient ne pas reconnaître les différentes régions du fait qu'il y a tellement de développement dans toutes les circonscriptions. En passant, je voudrais bien voir quelle est aujourd'hui la réaction de ces députés de l'opposition qui voulaient s'attacher aux arbres de la promenade Roland-Armand, quand il fallait abattre des arbres pour l'aménagement des rails du métro. Je me souviens encore de l'honorable Kirin et l'honorable Bagouane qui posaient des questions ou à l'ajournement venaient avec des questions uniquement pour tirer un capital politique. Mais monsieur le vice-président, avez-vous vu les honorables membres de l'opposition de Beaubassin-Rosil venir dire merci à ce gouvernement pour le Recreational Park construit à Eben? Est-ce qu'ils se sont rendus compte de l'engouement des habitants de la région de Beaubassin-Rosil, Eben et d'ailleurs, qui viennent s'adonner en famille et en toute sécurité à des activités physiques à Eben Recreational Park? Non, monsieur le vice-président. Ils ne sont ici que pour faire de la démagogie. Allez comparer le travail du leader du MMM, député de la circonscription numéro 19, depuis belle lurette, et le travail abattu par le leader du mouvement libérateur, l'honorable Ivan Colin Davelou, et le gouvernement en si peu de temps. Rosil se transforme, monsieur le président. Moi-même, je suis un rosilien de naissance. Maintenant, quand un ministre, un PPS ou un député viennent dire qu'il transformera sa circonscription en New York ou en Manhattan, il s'attire les moqueries des députés de l'opposition ou même des médias. Monsieur le vice-président, il transforme la circonscription en ville que tout le monde aurait souhaité visiter. Même les membres de l'opposition ne veulent pas voir ces circonscriptions et ces villes se transformer pour le meilleur. Ils ne souhaitent pas qu'il y ait de développement. Comment puis-je faire l'impasse sur les investissements de centaines de millions de roupies dans ma circonscription pour faire face aux inondations à Cantorel, l'Agrément, Saint-Pierre, Nouvelle Découverte, Telfer, Moka, la Laura Malinga, Dagotière, quartier militaire L'Avenir. Un nouvel incinérateur sera aménagé à quartier militaire, la réorganisation du centre communautaire de Saint-Pierre, un nouveau pont aérien à Saint-Pierre et l'aménagement d'infrastructures récréatives et sportives dans la circonscription numéro 8, un médiclinique à quartier militaire qui est déjà en construction, sans oublier les jogging tracks et plusieurs multi-complex halls. Toute personne et député responsable veut le faire pour sa circonscription et je laisse à la population de juger. Et tout à l'heure, l'honorable Bagouane était dans la chambre et lors de son discours, il a dit « Allez voir les routes de Beaubassin en piteux état ». Mais monsieur le président, qui est le député de Beaubassin? C'est pas lui? Alors, quel travail est-ce qu'il a fait? Rien. C'est ce gouvernement qui est en train de faire. Monsieur le vice-président, que n'a-t-on pas entendu concernant le complexe sportif de Côte d'Or? L'éléphant blanc, c'était la même chose pour le cybercité, pour l'université de Maurice, pour l'autoroute. Des questions de toutes sortes de la part de l'opposition pour tenter de démontrer que cela était un mauvais investissement. Mon ami l'honorable Toussaint en a parlé lors de son intervention et je me permets d'en dire aussi, étant l'ancien ministre des Sports et j'étais l'initiateur de ce projet. Mais ces champions de la critique savent-ils qu'avant la construction du complexe sportif de Côte d'Or, Maurice ne disposait pas d'une piscine et d'infrastructures répondant aux normes internationales. Donc, comment donc allions-nous aider nos sportifs locaux à améliorer leur performance et permettre que celles-ci soient homologuées? Et si nous ne l'avions pas fait, là également, on aurait droit à toute une série de questions parlementaires et des critiques déplorant que nous ne faisons rien pour nos sportifs. Toutefois, je comprends cette mentalité, venant de certains en particulier, dont le parti a passé jusqu'ici le plus clair de son temps dans l'opposition depuis sa création. Mais il faudrait aussi dire qu'il y a une limite au ridicule, même si le ridicule ne tue pas. Aujourd'hui, monsieur le vice-président, l'espoir se retrouve dans marée noire. Monsieur le vice-président, je faillirai à ma tâche si je ne mentionne pas ce fils du sol qui a tant laissé au pays. Son départ nous a affectés, mais son héritage et sa vision resteront à jamais gravés dans la mémoire de tous les Mauriciens. Ce gouvernement poursuit la vision de Feu Sanirou Jagnat, le père du miracle économique de notre pays. Et son fils, notre Premier ministre, Pravin Kumar Jagnat, y apporte sa touche personnelle pour que le pays connaisse le progrès et la prospérité. Dans une interview que Feu Sanirou Jagnat avait fait à un journal ou une radio, il avait dit ceci: Pravin pour faire mieux que moi. Monsieur le vice-président, si vous avez la bénédiction d'un père comme Sanirou Jagnat, Monsieur le Premier ministre, croyez-moi, personne ne pourra vous barrer la route. Le destin de ce pays est entre vos mains. Nous savons tous votre capacité de bosseur, de proximité avec votre peuple, et je suis bien placé pour le savoir. Le Premier ministre, malgré son emploi du temps hyper chargé, il se fait un devoir d'être présent à côté de ses mandats dans la circonscription numéro 8, mais aussi dans toute l'île quand il est le Premier ministre de tous les Mauriciens. Nous avons vu sur le terrain, pendant le passage d'un cyclone ou de pluies diluviennes, il n'agit pas en figurant. Il joint l'action à la parole. Il se fait un devoir de suivre les projets de haute importance quand il s'agit de soulager la souffrance de son peuple. Monsieur le vice-président, l'alliance dirigée par le Premier ministre a gagné les élections haut la main. Nous avons vu les pétitions électorales être rejetées les unes après les autres par la Cour. Mais par contre, ce qui me consterne, c'est que l'autre jour, dans un entretien, le leader du Parti travailliste est venu dire que les élections étaient truquées et il a pris les élections de 1991 en exemple. Et là, je déplore le silence du MMM. Pour mendier une alliance, le MMM est prêt à avaler n'importe quelle couleuvre. Nous le savons tous que la survie du MMM est dépendante d'une alliance, quitte à mendier avec le Parti travailliste, quitte à travailler sous le leadership de Xavier-Luc Duval. Où est Azo Adélaïde, monsieur le vice-président? Combien d'épisodes on-off verra-t-on encore? Mais contrairement au précédent épisode, le switch est resté sur off, malgré tous les efforts fournis par le MMM pour le mettre on. Ne serait que pour quelques minutes. Là, on entend Paul, le leader du MMM, crier « Radies, radies, ne vois-tu rien venir ?»« Non, Paul, répond-il. N'en déplaise à ceux qui s'entêtent à dire que l'Alliance mauricienne n'a obtenu que 37,68% des voix aux élections de 2019. Que la population n'est pas avec nous, surtout les membres de l'opposition, pour se faire une excuse de défaite. Monsieur le Président, je les renverrai aux élections de l'élection partielle au numéro 18, où ils avaient obtenu seulement 35,11%. Combien parmi ces membres de l'opposition non présents ici, parce que, comme d'habitude, le fameux walk-out, ont obtenu moins de 50%, mais sont bel et bien membres de cette Assemblée. Et pourtant, pour eux, c'est en toute légitimité qu'ils se sont retrouvés ici. Mais pour ceux qui seraient toujours tentés de tenir ce genre de langage, alors, monsieur le vice-président, je dirais ceci. Le Premier ministre, c'est l'honorable Pravin Kumar Jagnat et il dirige le gouvernement qui a été plébiscité par l'électorat. Donc, laissez-nous faire notre travail et vous jouissez-vous des privilèges qui vous sont offerts de siéger dans l'opposition, d'effectuer des walk-outs à tout bout de champ pour des raisons futiles afin d'abdiquer devant vos responsabilités. Faire des attaques personnelles, diminuer les membres de la Chambre en les traitant de tous les noms, laquessate, petit crétin, bouffon, imbécile, et aussi s'attaquer au speaker. Monsieur le vice-président, si vous le permettez, je dirai quelques mots à ce sujet. Ils ont le droit de ne pas aimer la personne qui préside le Parlement. Mais en tant que parlementaire, il est de notre devoir de respecter l'institution qui représente le Parlement. Shame on them. Les mesures annoncées par le ministre des Finances illustrent la volonté du gouvernement d'apporter un rééquilibrage et de prioriser le bien-être, la prospérité économique de sa population. Alors, nous nous éloignons maintenant de la pandémie mondiale et ouvrons nos portes aux étrangers. Le gouvernement montre également un engagement à encourager l'industrie du tourisme, les entreprises locales, les exportations et le secteur manufacturier, l'économie océanique et les investissements étrangers directs. Le gouvernement s'est également engagé à maintenir Maurice comme l'une des juridictions les plus favorables aux entreprises en supprimant tous les coûts réglementaires pour la constitution d'entreprises. Il confirme en outre la coopération de la Banque de Maurice dans cette entreprise grâce à son intention de garantir l'ouverture des comptes en banque pour les particuliers et les entreprises dans les semaines suivant leur demande. Monsieur le vice-président, ce gouvernement ne voit aucune utilité à annoncer des mesures qui tardent à être mises en application ou qui restent dans le placard. Non, ce n'est pas notre agenda. La population nous a fait confiance en 2014 et nous le font en 2019 pour que nous faisions progresser le pays tout en assurant le bien-être du peuple. Dans ce sens, à travers le budget 2022-2023, le gouvernement s'est également engagé à promouvoir la communication interministérielle en annonçant qu'une comité interministériel présidé par le Premier ministre va être mise en place pour l'examen et l'approbation des licences permis dans les domaines de la construction, secteur du tourisme, la santé, des logistiques. Ce travail structuré devrait aider à accélérer les décisions administratives et aider la communauté des affaires dans son ensemble. À ce titre, ce gouvernement réitère sa vision de la facilitation des affaires, business facilitation, un terme que nous avons entendu depuis bien avant 2014, mais qui est demeuré un slogan creux. Monsieur le Président, outre la réduction de la road tax pour les camions et les trailers, le gouvernement dirigé par l'honorable Pravin Jagnnath n'a pas hésité de venir de l'avant avec des mesures fortes concernant la vente à la barre. Combien ont été dit à ce sujet, mais rien n'a été fait. Encore une fois, c'est notre Premier ministre qui l'a fait, à travers le ministre des Finances. Un homme de parole, un homme qui prend le soin d'écouter tout le monde avant de prendre des actions dans l'intérêt national. Désormais, la mise à prix ne pourra être inférieure à 90% de la valeur du logement familial de l'emprunteur. Le prêteur récupérera seulement de la vente la somme du capital et des intérêts et les pénalités seront supprimées. Toute somme récupérée lors de la vente excédant le montant dû au prêteur ou aux pénalités sera remise à l'emprunteur. Très important, toute vente par le bailliage du sale by levy sera dorénavant effectuée uniquement par un processus de soumission scellé. De quoi couper l'herbe sous les pieds de ceux qui ont sans aucune honte abusé du système de la vente à la barre pendant des décennies. Et que dire de l'extension de la Basic Widow's Pension pour les veuves de femmes musulmanes à travers l'enregistrement tardif du mariage religieux auprès du Muslim Family Council. Monsieur le vice-président, autant de mesures pour redonner le souffle à notre économie et améliorer les conditions de vie de nos concitoyens. Mais évidemment, le gouvernement continuera à essuyer des critiques et certainement pas de critiques constructives venant de la part de ceux qui continuent à croire dans la formule 40 plus 40 est égal 80. Les critiques ne nous empêcheront pas de faire ce qui est bien pour le pays. Le syndrome non n'est pas bon, comme l'a si bien dit le PPS Ramcharan. Monsieur le Président, Henry Ford a dit, je cite, « Se réunir est un début, rester ensemble est un progrès, et travailler ensemble est une réussite. Ensemble tout possible, Monsieur le Vice-président. » C'est exactement l'esprit dans lequel ce gouvernement fonctionne, contrairement à ceux qui disent représenter l'espoir de la population. À bien les voir en public, ils feignent de s'aimer alors que leur ménage est déjà voué à l'échec. Quand chacun veut être l'homme de la maison et se présenter face à l'honorable Pravin Jagnnath pour le poste de Premier ministre. Monsieur le vice-président, comme je l'ai dit plus tôt, feu Saniro Jagnnath avait prédit que l'honorable Pravin Jagnnath fera mieux que lui. Monsieur le vice-président, la preuve est devant nous. Lors des élections de 2019, pour la première fois dans l'histoire de l'île Maurice post-indépendance, l'alliance dirigée par Pravin Jagnnath a battu le Parti travailliste, le MMM et le PMSD. Monsieur le vice-président, comme mentionné plus tôt, j'avais dit que j'allais retourner sur l'hôpital de cancer. L'hôpital aujourd'hui spécialisé dans le traitement des patients atteints du cancer, que n'a-t-on pas entendu, y compris des attaques personnelles dirigées contre notre Premier ministre. L'honorable Bhagwan ne s'était pas privé de lancer à l'égard de Pravin Jagnnath en janvier Tokari Pukui, en ne se rendant pas compte que le Premier ministre a aussi une famille qui peut être blessée par de tels propos hagneux. Mais en fin de compte, c'est Zotkari qui me brûlait. Qui ne se souvient pas de la campagne malsaine menée concernant l'hôpital Medpoint et quelles ont été les conséquences de tout ce tam-tam. Au final, le projet a été retardé. De nombreuses personnes souffrant du cancer n'ont pu bénéficier des dernières technologies médicales. Si une telle campagne malsaine n'avait pas été menée, beaucoup de patients auraient pu avoir soulagement, voire une guérison. Je dirais que la politique sale et malsaine a eu raison de la vie de plusieurs de nos compatriotes et la population devrait y penser et tirer ses propres conclusions. Monsieur le vice-président, avant de terminer, je voudrais dire quelques mots concernant la campagne de Zetlabou menée contre ma personne, aidée par quelques journalistes. D'autant journaliste qui est toujours en poste avec plusieurs arrestations à son actif, qui est poursuivi devant une cour de justice, tenez-vous bien, pour domestic violence et breach of protection order. Cette personne est toujours en poste et ce même journal se prend pour un défenseur des droits de l'homme, de la protection de la femme et de donneur de leçons. Comme l'aurait si bien dit Feu Sage, I'll get to him dans la glace. Si cette personne était un député ou un ministre, cette même presse aurait réclamé sa démission, aurait bombardé la ministre de l'égalité des genres des questions pour des actions. Je sais que demain matin, elle va s'attaquer à moi, mais je n'ai pas de leçon à recevoir de cette personne qui ose lever la main sur une femme. Comme vous le voyez, je suis resté tranquille, mais ne prenez pas mon silence comme une faiblesse, loin de là. Car pour moi, il y a une seule vérité. Laissez les comploteurs à leur travail. Vous savez, monsieur le vice-président, je me souviens toujours de cette phrase en classe. Quand la maîtresse demande « Qui a fait du bruit ?», le coupable va tout de suite dire « Miss, pas moi ça ». Monsieur le Président, mon horoscope est le suivant. Je suis un scorpion. Mon horoscope chinois est tigre. Et l'hindouiste, je suis un simha, c'est-à-dire un lion. Alors, je laisse le soin à mes détracteurs de bien prendre note et de quel bois je me chauffe. Time will tell. Monsieur le Président, je profite de l'occasion pour remercier mes amis au gouvernement pour leur support. Aussi à quelques membres de l'opposition pour leur soutien et de bonnes paroles. Un grand merci aussi au Premier ministre, la vice-première ministre, sans oublier mes mandants de la circonscription numéro 8. Monsieur le vice-président, comme vous le savez tous, je suis un grand supporter de Liverpool. La chanson mythique de Liverpool m'inspire, You'll never walk alone. Et les paroles sont ainsi. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky. Avec ces mots, je dirais, monsieur le vice-président, long live the Prime Minister, long live Mauritius. Merci.
Honourable Ramia, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I move for the adjournment of the debate.
Seconded. The question is that the debate be adjourned. Those in favour say aye, those against say no. Ayes have it.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I move for the adjournment of the Assembly to tomorrow, Friday, 17th of June at 3 p.m.
The question is that the House be adjourned to Friday, 17th of June at 3 p.m. Those in favour say aye, those against say no. Ayes have it. Have a safe trip back home.